The future of the Road Wild main event participants looked uncertain, as with the political and creative structure in the company aside with both having a role in the process. Reports were coming from WCW during the week on Hogan injuring his knee during the TV tag match last week, along with Nash scheduled to be written off and take a break after the match with a plan to return with Scott Hall. WCW started the unopposed hour with Harlem Heat's first match back in over a year after building to it in the last month, going 8 minutes with Bigelow and Canyon as well as setting up Page vs. Benoit for later. President Sting came out saying that this week he's the one who needs a partner, calling out Bill Goldberg to team up with him in the main event to a big pop, leaving the answer open, telling viewers that he will be back at the top of the hour at 9 p.m. to get Goldberg's response in the crossover segment. Hogan came out without the Hollywood beard look to hype up the Nash match, calling him out for tonight. Sting returned to the ring a few minutes from the top of the hour for the Goldberg response, ending up with him being attacked by Rick and Seat backstage, including getting a legit cut at the back of his head from the shovel bump. Both then attacked Sting with Goldberg eventually making the save to set up the match in the main event. While the segment was promoted for 9, the angle was over just as the show turned the hour, with the first head-to-head quarter starting with a recap and a commercial break, in either a timing issue or done on purpose to make sure as many people as possible are watching the big angle to hype the match. A week after a record viewership, Raw started with an unusual format as with Vince McMahon off television, Taker and Show, Austin and Rock all yet to arrive in the building. The Acolytes opened the show calling out Taker and Show after their match last night on Heat, with Shane McMahon's first response promo for Vince's end of an era hyped for later. After the first segment, the next 30 minutes, which featured mostly commercials and video recaps, saw WCW drop to some of its lowest numbers in years until starting to pick up at 9:45. Raw started to pick up from the second quarter, jumping around 1 million viewers for Edge vs. Gangrel going 8 minutes in the first ever bloodbath match, and Shane McMahon's first response promo to Vince losing the match last Sunday. Shane said that after 27 years of building the industry, Vince deserved the biggest farewell party of all time, instead of being mocked on the way out by the fans Austin and JR. Saying that Vince made the company the best built brand in the entertainment universe, and is responsible for making every single top star currently on the roster, as well as the majority of the roster at Ted Turner's WCW. WCW had the end of the tag match and aired the Goldberg Megadeth video package in another commercial-filled quarter, with Raw continuing to climb, jumping another 900,000 viewers for a loaded segment with the end of the Shane promo and a Taker and Show vs. Kane and Road Dogg tag match, replacing X-Pac, who was selling the injury. Test came out during the Shane promo telling him that he's gonna take the posse one by one until getting to Shane, continue the build to their scheduled SummerSlam match. After the last 30 minutes, Nitro picked up over 600,000 viewers for an unscheduled Rick Steiner coming out after Scott Hudson made constant comments on him during the backstage angle earlier, throwing him in the ring and beating him down to write him off TV and end his well-received stint as the show's lead announcer, while putting heat on Steiner in the build to his Goldberg pay-per-view match, with Tony set to return next Monday. Doing an injury angle with Eric selling it big and staying on commentary for the rest of the show. While Raw had the end of the Taker Show vs. Kane and Road Dogg tag, Rock arriving and Billy Gunn coming out for a promo. In an interesting situation, Goldberg, in addition to a pizza commercial with men airing in the last month, made several appearances during Raw on the USA Network. While it wasn't the dream scenario talked about with a shocking move to the WWF during his contract dispute with the company, Goldberg had several commercials for his upcoming Universal Soldier movie during Raw. With Nitro starting the third hour with Saturn vs. Hennigan, the first half of Page Benoit. Billy Gunn and China opened Raw's second hour, cutting a promo on Rock with their now official pay-per-view match on August 22, set to be the biggest match in Gunn's career. As Rock showed up on the Titantron, continuing to turn his routine weekly segments to all-time great performances, telling Gunn that if he hits him he will kill him, if he misses the wind behind the punch will give him pneumonia and he will die anyway. Hyping up their SummerSlam match on August 22. The Rock Billy Gunn segment, along with a Jarrett vs. D'Lo Brown title vs. title match going 6 minutes with D'Lo taking both belts, peaked the night with a 6.7 rating. WCW established the card for the Road Wild pay-per-view all booked in advance, unlike some shows in previous months where the full card outside the main matches wasn't announced. This time the company ran hype spots for the matches, with the pay-per-view set to be one of the most stacked shows of the year, with almost every top name booked in a high-profile match. After the top of the hour segment peak, there was a direct turnover, with WCW jumping over 1 million viewers to a show-high 3.4 rating and Raw dropping to a 5.6. WCW had the finish of the 8-minute Page vs. Benoit match, and Randy Savage coming out for a promo, telling Rodman that they will meet at Sturgis but calling him out right now, bringing out Mona to the ring asking Savage to accept her back to the team, with Savage reconsidering and telling her that she's still fired, as Rodman showed up on stage. With Rodman and Savage both having microphones on live television, sending the TNT censorship into panic, with both aggressively cursing each other in a strong exchange to build up the match in 2 weeks. With Mona turning on Savage to give Rodman the opening to attack, before asking for the microphone again, and Eric on commentary telling production to go to a commercial break. Steve Austin came out for his first appearance at around 10:20, hyping his SummerSlam match with Triple H. Issues with Austin came up during the week, as reportedly the original script for Raw had to be changed. With Austin known to want to work with a select few performers, on Raw taped on July 27, Russo and Ferraro offered Austin to be involved in matches with Billy Gunn and Jeff Jarrett, Gunn as part of the two main programs with Rock and Hunter, and Jarrett after setting the stage for it in the last month, along with a real-life connection with Deborah, ending up with Austin turning down the Jarrett angle, saying that he's not over enough, with them having legit heat all the way back to Jarrett burying Austin's 316 saying in 1997, resulting in a late change to the Raw format, with Taker and Show coming out to attack Austin and set up an Austin vs. Taker rematch instead of the possible Jarrett match. In another angle before the match, Triple H arrived hearing that Taker is getting a title match before his shot at the pay-per-view. The end of the TV broadcast of this Raw added another major issue as Steve Austin injured his knee during an off-the-air brawl with Hunter, putting his condition for SummerSlam in doubt with him taken off his scheduled house show appearances. Hogan came out just before the main event for the Nash Challenge, ending up with him taking Bobby Heenan's place and Hogan and Eric doing commentary for the Goldberg and Sting vs. Steiner and Seed tag match. Raw jumped around 900,000 viewers back into the 6 rating range for the final quarter, starting with Test taking another member of the Posse on the way to Shane. With both shows going up against heavier sports competition, the combined audience was expected to be down from last week's huge viewership, with the WWF setting the stage for what is set to be one of the biggest and most publicized draw shows of the year next Monday in Chicago, with the wrestling television return of Governor Jesse Ventura in addition to the reveal of the Millennium Clock set to expire at around 10 p.m. During the night, Seed was calling himself the man of the new millennium in reference to the clock on Raw, while the expected debuting Millennium Man worked his final WCW match on July 21 teaming with Eddie against Trey and Kidman. On top of that, another major addition to the WWF is expected to come soon as ECW's Dudley's reached an agreement with the company. WCW's main event jumped big with over 1.3 million viewers to a peak 4 rating, ending up with Nash powerbombing Hogan through the announcer's table, while Raw's promoted Austin vs. Taker match was about to start about 3 minutes in the overrun, including having 2 minutes unopposed, ending up with Triple H coming out to stop the match and a big brawl starting in the ring to close the show. While the Raw closing credits appeared on screen, it was the end of an era and the start of a new one, as the usual Titan Sports was replaced by World Wrestling Federation Entertainment, with the company announcing plans to go public. "6 days from Road Wild", WCW had a big 6-man tag in the main event in the build to Hogan vs. Nash, along with Savage and Rodman promos building their match. WCW ended the unopposed hour teasing the return of the Hulk, as Hogan's son handed him his classic red and yellow attire. Raw on August 9 was one of the most hyped shows of the year, coming 6 days after the official announcement that the World Wrestling Federation was going public. Featuring the wrestling television return of Jesse Ventura along with the reveal of the Millennium Man. The Allstate Arena in Chicago erupted as Rock opened the show, responding to Taker and Show's attack on Heat. With Rock's merchandise dominating the top sellers lists, along with his new home video topping the sports charts, the Rosemont Horizon resembled the SmackDown Hotel as Rock took over the industry, cutting a trademark promo on the nickname Big Slow on the way to SummerSlam. Shawn Michaels arrived unannounced with Ventura's segment coming next. Ventura, after a public lawsuit against Vince McMahon a few years earlier, was now coming back to wrestling in a completely different profile as the Governor of Minnesota, the special referee in the SummerSlam title match. Part of the intrigue in the Ventura promo was that he was going to say anything he wants, sometimes deliberately to show McMahon and the audience that he can. The segment didn't disappoint, as seemingly going into business for himself, he took shots at what appeared to be Hogan and McMahon along with several others, referring to fake Navy SEALs in wrestling by saying that he is the only real one among other inside references. Triple H came out to say that Ventura is in his ring, to which he responded saying that the ring is in his country and telling him to check today's New York and LA Times, where he's pictured alongside US President Bill Clinton. Michaels came out to announce a three-way for the main event between Austin, Taker and Hunter, with the governor and the commissioner siding as the two-man in power, ending a memorable segment. After a Benoit vs David Flair match, ending with Benoit winning the US title, Randy Savage came out for the final build-up 6 days before his pay-per-view match against Dennis Rodman at Road Wild, promising to drop the elbow and end him Sunday, with Rodman scheduled for a promo later in the show. Moments after arriving at the building, Steve Austin was found unconscious, bleeding from the head with a broken cinder block beside him. Michaels accused Hunter and replaced Austin with Chyna for the main event, putting his SummerSlam title shot on the line. A sign of how basically every performer on the roster was over big with the crowd, from the undercard to the main event, could be seen in the ongoing storyline between D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry, having more creative story-advancing segments and character development than main event programs at later times. On this show, D'Lo took Henry for a run, continuing to try to drop some weight, before being attacked by Jeff Jarrett on the side of the road. After months of back-and-forth contract negotiations with both companies, Chris Jericho was about to make his WWF debut. Built for weeks with a countdown clock to reveal the Millennium Man, starting the show with an hour and 20 minutes to go. Jericho recalls the day writing his promo on his apartment floor, a completely different world than the contrived scripted environment that the industry is gonna turn into, with the only two people knowing what it's going to be are The Rock and Vince Russo. With Vince McMahon telling him beforehand that he's going to debut in the middle of Rock's promo, Jericho recalls thinking about how he was going from working mid-card matches in WCW, to interrupt the top guy in the business. Jericho remembers going over his promo with Rock and Russo in the catering of the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Rock walked to the ring at around 10:20 p.m., calling out "show" before the clock ran down. The crowd was ready, popping big when the Big Jericho name came on the Titantron, with plenty of signs in the building. Jericho's debut, coming at the heart of the peak of the industry creatively and financially, cut an ironic heel promo about the complete opposite of the business at the time, still not knowing that everything he wrote sarcastically on his apartment floor in August '99, is gonna come true over a decade later with the decline of the industry. Rock responded after 3 boring minutes, ending one of the most memorable segments in history, along with one of the best debuts of all time. The Rock and the Millennium Man reveal segment peaked the night with a 6.9 rating, along with the Ventura, Michaels and Triple H segment also drawing a 6.9. Dennis Rodman came to the ring for a promo with Mean Gene. What was supposed to be an interview took another turn as Rodman took the microphone, cutting a promo on Savage and girlfriend Gorgeous George, who was heavily involved in the program. Everybody knew the danger of the situation with Rodman on live TV with a microphone in his hand, as he was cursing throughout the promo just as Savage came out to close the segment with a pull-apart brawl, with an appearance on The Tonight Show scheduled for both tomorrow night. The unconfirmed rumor was that Eric Bischoff knew about it but presented as an impromptu promo to go around any TV restrictions. Rodman's unpredictability always made for entertaining television. Speaking of a different kind of unpredictability, Jesse Ventura was a guest commentator for the main event, while Jim Ross, who had heat with Ventura for years, was pushing hard the idea that Austin was brutally attacked earlier. Ventura responded in a funny exchange that he doesn't know if he was even attacked, saying that he saw how many beers Austin drinks, so maybe he fell down the stairs by himself. With all 5 performers in the ring, Hulk Hogan's American-made song started, coming to the ring in the classic red and yellow Hulkmania gear as the building exploded. Raw gained to another 6.9, but that was with over 3 minutes unopposed, so the head-to-head number was likely a half a rating point or more less than that. Austin returned to the building, smashing Hunter with a chair to give Chyna the victory in another twist before SummerSlam. The big WCW Star Power Tag match gained big with over 1.5 million viewers, peaking head-to-head with a 4.4. The crowd erupted throughout the match for the babyface team of Hogan, Goldberg, and Sting, winning the match to make Hogan vs. Nash a retirement stipulation match in 6 days. Coming off the Road Wild pay-per-view, WCW set up Hogan's next match after going over Nash in the main event to write him off television for the next few months. Hogan's own status seemed to also be in question, with him working through knee injury for a few weeks with issues putting weight on his leg. Seed came out to challenge Hogan for the belt, starting an hour angle where he promised to take out the entire roster until Hogan accepts the match. With the crowd chanting Goldberg's name at Seed every time he was in the ring since his return to the company, WCW started a Goldberg-like streak for Seed, billing him as 55 matches in a row where he didn't get pinned, saying that he's going to break Goldberg's 170-plus number by the year 2000. After another Seed attack, Sting and Hogan ran out for the save, with Hogan accepting the match to set up the main event. With Nitro coming from Las Vegas next Monday night, Hogan said that after he beats Seed tonight he will give Sting a title shot next week. WCW's crossover segment started with a tag match of Insane Clown Posse against Public Enemy going 7 minutes, as well as Harlem Heat coming out after winning the tag belts Saturday, saying that they're going to defend the belts on TV every week. Six days from SummerSlam, Raw started with the pay-per-view main event Sunday, still set as Austin vs. Chyna for the title, opened with Triple H out introducing Chyna as the #1 contender. Hunter reminded Chyna of the good times they've had during their run, trying to get Chyna to give him his title shot back, suggesting a match between them for later, ending up with her refusing and Hunter going off, saying that after everything he did for her she turns on him and take his shot, eventually setting up the match. In an unusual pattern, the second quarter, which usually drops after the crossover segment, saw WCW jump around 700,000 viewers for Page vs. Kidman and the NWO Black and White turning on Bryan Adams. A week after his memorable debut segment with the biggest hype of his career, Chris Jericho was shown arriving to the building. A key point is how creative positioned Jericho with the arrival spot, usually saved for the top drawing players to hoop the audience and signal to viewers that they're coming up soon. Undertaker and Big Show came out for a promo, saying that the winner of the tag title match between Kane and X-Pac against the Acolytes is going to face them at SummerSlam. Undertaker then started telling a story on asking Paul Bearer to get him and Show 2 bikes, driving to the desert in the middle of Death Valley in 120 degrees, with Show's bike gas tank only half full, to leave him stuck in the desert and see how he survives. Eventually ending up with White coming back carrying his Harley Davidson on his shoulder, also playing off legit background of the partnership with Taker to help bring out Paul White's potential. Moments later the Millennium Clock ran down to bring out Jericho, saying that Taker and Show are out for 4 minutes and already made the audience completely oblivious to what they're saying, forcing him to come out and save the segment. Continuing to run down their promo, calling them the personification of boredom, with the only scary thing about them is their amount of TV time that causes people to change the channel. leading to Taker's response telling him that he had more shower time than Jericho had ring time and to never interrupt him again. With Jericho already having a target on his back due to him coming in with hype as an outsider, this promo added further heat on him backstage, as key people in the locker room with Austin and Michaels among them advising him against an impromptu burial of one of the locker room leaders and Taker when he just entered the company door. Triple H vs. Chyna was next, going 4 minutes an unusual time midway through the first hour as the match was expected later in the show. Moments later the reason was revealed as Mick Foley made his TV return after 3 months out with knee injury attacking Hunter to cost him the match, asking Chyna to put the title shot again against him, ending up with her refusing to bring out Michaels to book Chyna vs. Mankind for later in the show. Chyna vs. Hunter, Mankind's return in the post-match segment picked up huge, gaining around 1.8 million viewers to peak the night with a 7.3 rating. Minutes after that, WCW jumped over 700,000 viewers to a first-hour peak for Goldberg taking out Barry Windham in less than a minute, along with a post-match brawl. Raw had the final hype to the Test vs. Shane SummerSlam match after months of build-up, along with Blackman and Shamrock scheduled for the Lion's Den cage. Austin in his promo said that it doesn't matter who his opponent is as he's gonna take out all of them. Two tag matches were going head-to-head at the top of the hour. WCW had Harlem Heat going over the 3 remaining members of the NWO, while Raw had Kane and X-Pac going over the Acolytes in 7 minutes to set up the tag titles match with Taker and Show. WWF officially announced British Bulldog's return to the company, with a series of personal interviews based on the real-life family situation set to air in the next few weeks to introduce him back. Another debut was next as the big shot Bob Holly was out to introduce his super heavyweight cousin, bringing out Crush Holly with him brawling all show and ending up on the roof of a truck. With plans changing in the last month due to a mixture of injuries and politics, things were heating up heading into Sunday. With Steve Austin recently canceling an angle with Jeff Jarrett and with him off the road and scheduled to take some time off after SummerSlam to heal his knee injury suffered a few weeks back, tension was rising backstage with the late decision to bring Foley back early and add him into the Austin-Triple H title match. One reason is a way for Austin to work through the match and not have to wrestle a singles match with the injured knee. The alleged second reason was either the three-way rules allows him to lose the belts without getting pinned, or that he prefers doing the job to Foley instead of Hunter. With big egos and personalities all around the match, with 2 of the biggest being Ventura and Michaels, talk started during the week on the late change with reportedly a Michaels-McMahon exchange happening backstage on Raw, along with Ventura's reaction to the change in plans with him now having to work a different kind of match. The show-long angle twist continued with Mankind beating Chyna, before Shane and Michaels set up the final match of the night as Mankind vs. Hunter with both as special referee. WCW aired clips of the Randy Savage vs. Dennis Rodman match from Road Wild Saturday to sell the pay-per-view encore, with them putting on a strong performance all over the arena in the special attraction match. Raw then took 2 commercial breaks in the next quarter before Billy Gunn came out saying that there was a tragedy and he had an allergic reaction to a massage treatment he got last week, planning to take it out on Rock in 6 days, as Rock came out to a huge pop from the Milwaukee crowd. Rock mocked Gunn's entrance song saying that he's gonna electrify SummerSlam on Sunday, before bringing out the masseuse from Chicago, revealing that she used poison ivy. Rock continued playing the crowd unlike anything ever seen before in the industry, with over 14,000 people in unison at the Bradley Center reacting on cue, ending up with Gunn getting heat on Rock in the go-home segment for the pay-per-view match. The company's TV and road scheduling will completely change starting next week, with this Raw show taped on August 10th set to be the last, as Raw will go to a live broadcast every Monday starting next week, with the addition of the company's return show to network television with SmackDown, set to be taped every Tuesday along with Heat. After building it up throughout the show, the Hogan vs. Cena title match gained big, first jumping around 1 million viewers to a show-high 3.7 rating for the first half of the 10-minute match. Steve Austin came out to a big reaction just before the main event, sitting on commentary for the final build to the pay-per-view with his match still unknown. Mankind and Triple H in their second matches on the night, went 9 minutes in a Falls Count Anywhere, with Michaels and Shane both counting the falls. Hogan and Cena went 6 minutes in the overrun, jumping 800,000 viewers more to a peak 4.3 rating, ending up with Rick Steiner's interference for the DQ with major heat from the crowd, until Sting ran out, as Hogan and Sting closed the show with the Hogan vs. Sting title match set for next Monday in Vegas, in addition to the company heavily hyping a live Kiss performance over the last month for next week. Raw went longer than usual with a 9-minute overrun, including 3 minutes unopposed, picking up to a 7.1 rating for the SummerSlam go-home segment, ending up with a double count to set up the Austin, Triple H and Mankind 3-way match with Jesse Ventura as referee, in what is set to be one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time. Nitro on August 23 started with talks of a roster meeting happening hours before the show in Vegas, with Bischoff confronting several wrestlers on their recent public comments. WCW were also looking ahead to next week's unopposed show with a big opportunity to regain some of the audience back, as Raw will air 2 hours late starting at 11 p.m. due to the US Open, shooting an angle to set up the main event of Goldberg vs. Dallas Page for the show. Sting was out next, hyping his match with Hogan for tonight before Lex Luger made his TV return since June to start an angle of him questioning Hogan's babyface turn. Reports from the talked about meeting saw Eric calling out several performers while offering anyone who wants to leave their release from their contracts, reportedly singling out Raven, Bagwell, Conan and Mysterio among others for their public comments on and off TV, eventually ending with Raven leaving the meeting and asking for his release from the company, with Conan, Ray and Kidman allegedly considering before backing down, with Raven contacting Paul Heyman about a move to ECW with their new TNN program set to debut this Friday. Goldberg and Page had another segment to build up next week's match, with both coming off recent movie appearances, with Goldberg getting positive reviews for his role in Universal Soldier, while Page's movie First Daughter, which aired on TBS, drew a record 6.9 rating to become the most watched show ever on the network. WCW didn't advertise a segment for 9 p.m. and was on a commercial break when Raw started, opening the crossover segment with Juventud vs Lenny and Seed coming out to continue the build for the eventual Goldberg match. "24 hours after a big SummerSlam pay-per-view, Raw started fast with JR in the ring about to interview new champion Mankind after pinning Austin last night, with Jesse Ventura counting the fall, bringing out Triple H for the follow-up, saying that Ventura, Foley and the company ruined what was supposed to be his night, putting JR in a hold demanding a rematch, ending up with Foley setting up the match and Hunter breaking JR's arm in a follow-up injury angle after writing Steve Austin off TV with a knee injury to close SummerSlam. The talk of what was behind the change and finish of the match continued, even more after the finish of this Raw show, as a few days later Shawn Michaels did an interview on the WWF website talking about the SummerSlam finish, saying that Triple H was screwed on the show and the match should have been Austin vs Hunter, with Austin directly doing the job to drop the belt. Michaels, who himself holds the all-time record for getting out of doing jobs to drop the belts in the ring, continued saying that he knew Austin was injured going into the match, so someone felt it was necessary to add Foley and make it a three-way, comparing the situation to going into his WrestleMania 14 match with the back injury, saying that he didn't have the luxury of adding another person to do the job, ending talk on the subject saying that if he was involved in the match it would have went down the way it was supposed to go down. The interview reportedly got Michaels a lot of heat backstage, specifically from Austin, as it was publicized on the company's own platform, with his future TV role still unknown. Test came out a day after a career breakthrough match against Shane, with both putting on great performances in a match that exceeded all expectations as one of the highlights of the show, ending up with Test proposing to Stephanie and Shane sprinting to the ring. Moments later Hogan came out for a promo responding to Luger and hyping the main event against Sting coming up. Raw had several show-long angles, first with Chris Jericho hyping up Howard Finkel, telling him that he needs to be a warrior to stay alongside him, setting up the segment later, as well as Jeff Jarrett putting a contract on a door backstage for anyone to sign to get an IC title match against him, leading to Billy Gunn and Chyna turning on each other, coming a day after Mark Henry turned heel on D'Lo, with Jarrett giving him the European belt. Rock came out a few minutes from 10 after going over Gunn last night to close out the program, hyping his match with Gangrel coming next. The preliminary reports on the SummerSlam pay-per-view show the event generating over 600,000 buys, continuing the company's hot streak with pay-per-view revenue in general for the first half of 1999 led by the WWF events, already surpassing the year of 1998. With wrestling drawing over 50% of the pay-per-view business and over $140 million in revenue. WCW started the third hour with Rick Steiner against Chris Benoit in 6 minutes. The peak quarter of the night came at the top of the hour, jumping into the 6 rating range with Rock vs. Gangrel going 4 minutes. Post-match saw Rock about to leave the ring before coming back for another promo to a huge pop. Rock, who took over as the top attraction in the industry with him leading the business charts in the last month, along with the company's UPN SmackDown Network TV program and video game series set to be named after him, cut a worked-shoot promo on the company booking him in matches with Gunn and Gangrel and trying to hold him down when he should be headlining in title matches, saying that from now on he will take matters into his own hands. Going against heavier sports competition heading into the fall, the combined viewership was down from the usual levels, with both dropping on the night. WCW had a surprising title change, with the Cowboys going over Harlem Heat to win the tag belts, coming after performing their new song Good Ol' Boys earlier in the show. After building up Finkel to be a warrior in the last hour, the deal led to Fink running to the ring to Ultimate Warrior's song while imitating his entrance, calling out Road Dogg to the ring, along with the first Bob vs. Crush Holly match. One of the biggest dream matches of the decade that, outside of a short swerve match last year, ended up not happening with quick changes in direction and politics, finally happened on a non-televised event during the week, with Bret Hart returning to work his first match back against Hulk Hogan on 3 house shows. The big market shows in California were scheduled to be headlined with 2 matches of Hogan and Sting against Savage and Seed, along with Goldberg vs. Flair, with both ending up changing due to injuries and management dispute, leading to Eric calling Bret Hart and booking the Hart vs. Hogan match on the shows. Hogan and Sting made their entrances at around 10:40, going 12 minutes in a pay-per-view preview match, ending up with Seed, Steiner, Goldberg and Luger all involved after a DQ finish, with Hogan, Sting, Goldberg and Luger standing in the ring to close the segment, with the stage getting set in the background for the Kiss performance to close the show. Hogan vs. Sting and post-match brawl gained over 800,000 viewers to a show peak 3.4 rating. Another milestone for the industry's boom period will happen in 3 days, with wrestling's return to primetime network television, with SmackDown debuting this Thursday. The show, which will be taped tomorrow in Kansas City's Kemper Arena and the building's first show since the Over the Edge pay-per-view, will mark the WWF's return to the national stage since NBC's Saturday Night Main Event specials in the early 90s. With the company's programs dominating the cable TV charts, the return to network TV got big coverage, as UPN not only airs the show, but built the entire network around it, with over 50% of the advertisement budget set to be invested in SmackDown. UPN, who is struggling for numbers, will count on the WWF audience to bring up the entire channel up a level in the charts. As another credit to the company, during the second quarter of 1999, the USA Network, led by 3 weekly hours of Raw and Heat, beat UPN with a 2.7 to 2.5 million primetime viewership average, marking the first time ever a cable TV network had a higher average viewership than a broadcast network. The hyped Kiss performance was placed in the overrun starting past 11 p.m., getting a big pop from the Vegas crowd, but as often happened with musical performances, didn't translate to TV viewership as the overrun going up against the title match on Raw, dropped from a show-high 3.4 rating to a show low 2.3. Ending up with Bryan Adams revealed as the new member of the band with plans for a crossover pay-per-view in December. Rock on commentary continued to shoot the angle burying management throughout the Mankind Triple H match, saying that next week they might book him against Brooklyn Brawler, asking who's booking this crap and that he should be in the ring right now because he's the best in the business. Foley and Hunter went 9 minutes with Triple H winning his first title in a surprising finish a day after SummerSlam, adding more fuel to the questions, picking up over 1.3 million viewers and the 7-minute overrun to a 6.4 rating.